Hi, everyone. Hi, Babula. How are you?
Cheryl, I'm doing pretty good.
Terrific. Well, welcome back to another episode of Astrology Now, where we're talking about, amongst many other things, the full moon in Aquarius, which is coming up on the 12th of August, Australian time.
Yeah.
Babula and I have just been chatting earlier in the day about all the things that are going on in the world, and I was feeling a bit riled up about the world situation, which should be no surprise because Aquarius is about getting riled up, isn't it? And revolting against something and
Yeah.
rebelling and uprising and insurrection and mutiny.
Exactly. That's right.
So it's like there's a popular uprising against well, let's just say 5% of the population who we've come to know as the elites. That uprising has gone global
Mm-hmm.
and against the status quo, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's Aquarius for you, isn't it?
that's right. And this full moon is like a big expression of those dynamics at play. It's a particularly strong full moon, this one.
Yeah. So how do you see that playing out?
Well, it's a super moon again, a super full moon, and it's only in the recent couple of years that phrase has sort of been coined and come into popular usage. And basically what it means when a full moon is a super moon is usually a few a year. It just means that the moon in her orbit is a little bit closer to the Earth. So it's not a perfect circle, circular orbit. So sometimes she's a bit closer. And from our perspective on Earth, then she looks bigger and brighter. And so the last few full moons have been super moons, and this one is also. So the impact is increased, and we know that, that the lunar cycles and the full moon has a huge impact on our human and biological experience on the planet, as does all of nature. There's an absolute response to these lunar cycles with the tides and all of nature. So when it's a super full moon and it's closer to the Earth, and of course the moon orbits around the Earth anyway, and I find this an interesting thing about the moon that I think is always worth taking into account. She doesn't independently orbit around the sun like all the other planets in our solar system. She belongs, if you like, to the Earth. She orbits around the Earth as the Earth orbits around the sun.
Mm.
So she's like married to the Earth, you could say. She's incredibly connected to the Earth, and thus she is connected to our biological human experience and all of nature in a very immediate way. Our emotions, our feelings, our physical organism, our hormones, all of that is impacted by the moon and her phases and cycles and the signs and so on. And we're all born during a particular lunar phase, which has a lot to do with women's fertility as well, that like the lunar phase we were born under and so on. So our experience of the moon is very immediate.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it's very personal and quite intimate in a way, we're influenced and impacted by her energy and her presence very, very strongly and very closely.
Yeah.
So the last time we talked, we were talking about the we're in the Leo moon cycle when the new moon occurred in early Leo. I think it was 5 degrees it was 5 degrees. And so now this full moon is the peak of that cycle when the moon grows to absolute fullness, and she's exactly opposite the sun. And I always love that image of if you're in a high, like I often think of the lighthouse at Byron Bay, and people flock to that location if they're in that region at a full moon, because you've got this vantage point, this view of the full moon rising on the eastern horizon over the ocean, and on the opposite side in the west the sun is setting. because the sun and the moon are in complete and perfect opposition to each other. And so if you're out in a boat or if you're out in the desert, you'll see the same thing. If the sky is clear, you know, you'll actually visibly see those two bodies, those two luminaries or lights on the horizon, exactly opposite each other. So it's really powerful.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, because the moon travels around the earth very fast.
She does.
So we're sort of being, you know, we're being moved and pushed, and emotions are sort of responsive, and
yeah,
you know, it goes through every 2.5 days it moves on to some other thing. So
the next sign, that's right.
Yeah. So it's just like, wow, like, and that explains why some people change their minds just like that.
That's right, because the mood changes.
Yes.
You know, and the moon rules Cancer in normal astrology, and people will often say Cancerians are moody. You could say they're moony.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
You know, there's this like tides, the lunar tides. You know, it's the ebb and flow of feelings and biology and hormones and energies that's fluctuating and coming and receding and moving like this. You know, it's really powerful. And so people who are quite lunar by nature, they feel this acutely. You know, they respond to these cycles and rhythms and pulses of the moon very, very strongly. And yes, they can appear to be moody. You know, sometimes they're out there and then they withdraw, and their emotions are easily moved and so on. So yeah, it's a big thing. And you know, if we have clear skies over the next few nights, we're recording this a couple of days early, then, in fact, I saw it last night. I think the sky's cleared for a bit and the moon's growing. So, you know, I went outside to do something and I went, oh, I could sense the light in the sky, you know, and so she's growing, and we love that. Yeah.
I was just thinking too, like we sort of relate, I'm just thinking of the moon in Aquarius, we relate Aquarius to, you know, typically revelation, revolution, you know, anti-status quo, also about scientific breakthroughs and innovation, those sorts of things. But it's also, I've heard people say that it's also, Aquarius can be quite perverse, you know, in being stubbornly against what is right or sensible. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sometimes that Aquarian Uranian energy can be contrary.
Yes.
There's such an instinct to rebel. Sometimes it can even be a rebellion against something that might be good for you, because someone's telling you that's what you should do, and you're going, well, I'm going to do the opposite, just because there's that instinct and that need to sort of go, well, no one's going to tell me how I should be.
Yeah.
You know, so and it can change too, you know. Yeah, so that definitely can be one expression of that energy.
Because I was thinking about the world stage, and we were talking about this earlier today, but different things that we're seeing at the moment with choices that are being made for the collective, right, which seem to lack common sense, and you know, like shutting down nuclear plants in Germany to cut emissions, and then everyone freezes through winter, right? Like, where's the sensibility in that? It's like the opposite of being stubborn or being against what's right or sensible. It's like doing the opposite, and like that's not sensible at all. It's sort of you know, there's this sometimes there is this eco-tyranny that's going on that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
That's right.
You know, and that is a perversion in itself too.
Yeah, I think we're living in times where many things don't make very much sense.
Yeah. Dutch farmers protesting.
That's right.
You know, because of which really should be important to everyone, because they export 50% of the world's food supply. So like that affects not just them, the people in that country, but also the world, you know.
That's right.
So
and they are being forced to comply to certain things that will cause their farms to actually cease production, close down. Yeah, things are very weird on planet Earth currently.
Yeah.
Very strange. That's right. It's so much turmoil.
Ideological insanity. And I wanted to bring all that up because I think we have to remember that that's always in the background too with everything that's going on. Like what we're talking about, that's in the background.
Yes, it is.
So
it's absolutely in the background. And that word ideology, like isms,
yeah,
all the isms,
yeah,
capitalism, communism, you know, all of the isms are ideologies. And that's something that's quite Aquarian as well. And remember, Aquarius is a fixed sign. It's a fixed air sign, and the fixed signs are all about the generation of power and creative power and holding and maintaining and stabilizing. But the shadow side of that, you know, all signs have shadow side and a more negative expression. The shadow side of that in Aquarius can be fixity of thinking, an ideology that becomes very rigid and controlling and doesn't have much flexibility.
Yeah.
And because Saturn's been traveling through the sign of Aquarius and just happens to be right on this full moon, talk about that, that can be problematic. It can be a strict, cold-hearted, hard-line adherence to an ideology that in fact doesn't really serve the people.
Yeah.
You know, it's an adherence to an idea, which is a very Aquarian thing. The idea that in reality may not actually work or be truly, like communism to me was those ideas started to come in the early stages of the planet Uranus being discovered. You know, in 1781. And those ideas are like a real change in thinking about humanity and so on. And so to me, communism is on one level like an experiment in how people can live together and form community and share resources, which is a wonderful, ideal idea.
Yeah.
But of course, it just turned into another form of dictatorship.
Yes, absolutely.
I think, yeah. So you know, while we're on this subject, I know a lot of people are very excited and hopeful with Pluto's transition into Aquarius over the next couple of years. And rightly so. It is exciting, you know, for it to finally leave Capricorn. But at the same token, there is a shadow side to that, you know, which we will be addressing as we continue these conversations, you know, and Pluto's job is always to dredge up the shadow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and you know, and the overreaching control of technology and all pervasive into people's lives, you know, and we all get hooked up to this AI technology. And so it's a very complex situation. But you're absolutely right. The true pure impulse of Aquarius is to free ourselves from the dictates of top-down control so that we can discover how to live together on this planet in a more equal, harmonious, creative way, you know,
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking, you know, because we've got this full moon in Aquarius and Aquarius is ruled by Uranus.
Yes.
We've got this Mars conjunction with it, which seems to, you know, it makes that all really active and volatile and so, you know, stuff happening. And so it sort of sends out an electric current through the planet, which leaves us right now to sweat out a fever, if you like. And I think that's what we're seeing is, you know, there's a whole lot of changes that we're going through and it's like an organism, a human being or some sort of animal or whatever, with a fever. And I see humanity as having a fever and we just the working through it is just sweating out that fever.
Yes, fantastic. Fantastic. And there's a lot of tremendous amount of stress and pressure. Like I think everyone's feeling that tremendous sense of pressure as things have accelerated. I mean, they've been accelerating for some time, but since that big triple conjunction in the first couple of days of August, it's like a whole other level of acceleration.
Yeah.
Things are moving fast at a very high level of intensity.
Yeah.
And it's quite stressful, and people are feeling the stress of that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, if people who are watching, if you go back to the very early videos on this channel, I think it was in 2020, you'll find a clip entitled Tribal Heart Dancing Up Big Medicine, where I talk about a vision I had during a shamanic journey before any of us knew we were going to end up with humanity right here, right now, the way it is, in a fever. Yeah. And I spoke about in that journey that Spirit was telling me that we were going to have to sweat it out as we sort it out, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
And that fever and sweating it out is intense, isn't it? It's when we're in a really high fever, it's an intense experience, and you can't get away from it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You go through it. Yeah. Like being in a sweat lodge, it's intense.
Yes, exactly.
And then someone adds more water to the cold and, you know, and turns up the heat even more.
Yeah. I was going to show, I don't know, if you want to say any more about Aquarius.
No, you go. We'll come back to that.
Okay, because I also wanted to talk about Aquarius being represented by the color turquoise, because I used to do Orosome, and you did some years ago too, didn't you?
Yes.
So they've got this bottle with the two colors, with I think it's the water sitting on top of the oil, or the oil on the water. I can't remember now. Oil on water, I think. But it's turquoise in the top and the bottom of the bottle, which actually it represents a person, really, because you've got the head, you've got the shoulders, you've got the conscious mind, the unconscious mind down the bottom. But this turquoise is really, you know, it does represent the color of Aquarius. And if you pull that apart, which I love to do with color, it's created from a mix of green and blue, wherein basically lies the solution to the world situation. And the message is through the creative communication of the heart. So blue represents peace and being at peace with what is. And that's really about, you know, lightening up and letting go, because there are things in the world that we can't change at the moment. So we just have to be at peace with what's going on. You know, it doesn't mean you agree with something, with everything that's going on, but it means you just have to find somewhere within you that peace about it, you know, maybe, and that's turquoise, is that detachment from it. Yes. And the blue also expresses faith and trust, but not only personal trust, but trusting in what is ours will come forward without us having to grab it like we do when we're in fear of scarcity. Yes. And we're seeing a lot of that going on, aren't we? You know, we have seen a lot of that going on with people with toilet paper, for example. It's a good one. Or different things, you know, food, you know, food scarcity. And that really makes people revolt. You know,
absolutely. When it gets down to the bottom line, as bottom line issues, you know, of food and survival, absolutely.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, and the blue also represents our will versus a higher will, which when we go against that higher will, which is guiding us, we can find ourselves out of alignment with the higher plan. Yeah. Okay. So then when we add green to it, that's representative of that panoramic awareness that gives us the ability to perceive things clearly from another person's point of view, as if it were our own. And we've been working through a lot of that too. I've seen that through lots of things where people didn't want to see other people's point of view. So there's been a lot of divisiveness. That's right. That has to be healed now. That's right. Yeah. So the green also gives us a sense of spaciousness and direction and decision making, and making the best decisions we can by tuning into the emerald of the heart, our heart of hearts, you know, which, by the way, has an intimate link with the earth and the way we care for it. Yeah. Green. Yeah. Exactly. And interesting that when you change the letters around, that earth can be turned into the word heart. That's right. Right. So it's no coincidence that green issues or environmental issues have become so political currently as humanity moves closer towards the collective opening of the heart.
Yes.
When you've got all that together, okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that's how you sort of break down that turquoise, and I think those issues we've seen them playing out as things have been happening in Aquarius.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
There's a lot going on.
There sure is, and I always find that for me that turquoise does represent that heart connection with spaciousness, the spaciousness and expansiveness that allows us to breathe and find our way and solutions in a more open-minded sort of a space.
Yeah. And just to finish that off, that turquoise represents the process of individuation, where we sort of pull away from our family of origin as young people to set out on our own adventure and explore the world. And as we do, we come to look at our family at a distance.
That's right.
And we come to learn who we are in relation to them. Yes. So and as we do that, we can have an awakening, I guess, that we realize, hey, we are different. It's true, we really are different to them. We do have different values and ideals. And because of that, those people are often referred to as the black sheep of the family.
Exactly.
And I think there's a few people out there might relate to that.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. And you can see that playing out in the world at large as well.
Absolutely.
Those more individuated people who just don't and can't and won't just go along with what's being given and presented.
Yeah. So, it's not just about our family of origin, it's about our collective human family.
That's right.
And I've found over the years when I've worked with people with the Urasoma doing readings for them that people who pick turquoise in the challenge position of their model selection are always seeking for a place to belong, for a new tribe, because they just don't feel they fit in anywhere, That's
exactly right. And that's very Aquarius. Very, very Aquarius. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So this full moon is
getting back to that.
is a doozy. Sometimes we have to refer to a new or full moon as a doozy, and this is one of them.
Yes, yeah.
So the sun continues his journey through the sign of Leo. So the sun will be at 19 degrees. So the full moon is on the 12th of August, east coast of Australia, around 11:35 in the morning is the exact timing of it. That's Friday. Sun at 19 of Leo, exactly opposite the moon at 19 of Aquarius. So for anyone who has planets, and I do, around those degrees, 17, 18, 19, 20 of the fixed signs of Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus has certainly been powerfully impacted by the big triple Uranus-Mars North Node conjunction at 18 of Taurus. And now, coming in just a week or so later, this big full moon at 19 degrees of Leo, Aquarius, the moon will be conjunct Saturn at 22, and all of that squares the North Node at 17. Uranus still at 18 of Taurus, Mars at 25 Taurus. And see, I've highlighted it here.
Yep.
That's what it looks like. So you can visibly see. So there's the sun exactly opposite the moon, the full moon, which sits right next to the planet Saturn. That alone speaks of a great deal. But these are all square to this still very active triple conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node in Taurus going on in the fixed signs.
That's really interesting, that Leo and Aquarius connection, because Leo is I am, but Aquarius is we are.
That's right.
Isn't it? Yeah.
That's right. So, as a polarity, for them to work together, it's about honoring the sovereignty of the individuated self, right? I am. and coming together in the collective sense with community, group, all of humanity as a fully individuated individual. So that's the ultimate goal, if you like, of the integration of these two opposite signs.
Yeah.
So it's not one over the other. It's actually both. It's about both.
Yeah. I can see that playing out, because with the guy just going back to turquoise, it's about the individuation separating to understand yourself, but then you have life experiences, but then you bring it back to the collective consciousness.
That's right.
You know, so it's about the I and the we. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. That's right. And it, you know, what's just dropped in as you said that, I'm reminded of a tradition in the Zen Buddhist tradition, of a story called The 10 Bulls of Zen. And of course, the bull is Taurus.
Yep.
And there's these pictographs or images that represent this story that is told in Zen Buddhism, and I forget each stage, but you know, the bull represents that lower instinctual, more kind of blind, selfish energy of, you know, that's grasping and controlling and is powerful, you know, that Taurus energy. And the seeker goes off seeking the bull, and the bull sort of in a way represents the ego, right? And he goes in search of the bull and he can't find it, and he's tracking down the bull, and then he sees a glimpse, he sees hoof prints, and then he glimpses a tail, you know, and he's searching and he finds it, and he has to almost overcome the bull, and in the end he does, and he ends up riding the bull. So he sort of becomes integrated with the bull, but now his consciousness sort of has the upper hand, if you like. But that's the 9th image. But there's one more stage, and the next stage is it riding the bull, drinking a flask of wine. He returns back down to the people in the village to participate in human life and offer that experience and higher knowledge and truth to the people. So that's kind of, in a way, encapsulating all these 3 signs.
Yeah, absolutely. I love these stories.
I do too. They're fantastic. And these stories in these spiritual traditions are always, you know, used to teach and illuminate, and they're fantastic. And of course, the Scorpio part of the fixed axis in this story is that the bull's powerful and could kill him.
Yes, yeah.
And you know, and you think of all those themes around bullfighting and so on, and in India, how the bull is sacred, the bull and the cow is sacred and revered. So there's a lot there around bull symbolism. But you know, Leo the lion, Taurus the bull, Scorpio the scorpion, serpent, phoenix, eagle, and transformative energy. And Aquarius does not have an animal to represent it. It's a person, right?
Yes.
So that's about our human consciousness, and it's the person pouring out the waters of truth and knowledge and understanding and compassion to the people, to humanity.
Yeah.
So these 4 fixed signs, because the South Node's in Scorpio, are very powerful on this full moon. And the fixed signs are signs of great power. So when you get these 4 points on that fixed cross, and they're strong planets, the full moon, the sun, Saturn, Uranus, Mars, the nodes, you know, these are powerful energies, each one of them. You've got a lot of energy all lining up in these configurations of tremendous pressure, you know, and the Uranus is probably as the most outer planet and representing more collective cosmic forces, you could say is the most powerful. And it's the Uranus that's exerting this tremendous pressure against the resistance of Saturn and try to maintain control over the people in Aquarius. And there's Uranus pushing up against it with Mars on this full moon. And it's actually been playing out ever since last year, that big square between those 2 planets.
Yeah.
And now it's like peaking again very strongly on this full moon.
Yeah.
Pressure's immense and people are feeling it, and people feeling like they're about to crack.
Yes. Yeah.
Crack up, break down.
Crack open.
Crack open. It can be cracking open breakthroughs.
Yep.
Under that tremendous pressure, or just literally breaking down, you know.
Yeah.
So it's very intense, actually.
Yeah. And Uranus breaks things.
Uranus is breaking.
Yeah.
That's right. It breaks things.
Yeah.
People have broken bones under very
Yeah.
precise Uranian transits, you know. So, and it's an energy that can sort of smash through. It's very strong, but really it's about a new consciousness breaking through, collectively and individually. So it's a very potent, important full moon, this one, you know, in the Leo lunar cycle, about that individual identity and sovereignty. You know, the big question I always say in Leo is who am I?
Yes. Yeah.
And then in Aquarius, as you said before, and it's who are we together?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're seeking and finding new communities, aren't we, and connections, and some of our old connections are falling away, but we're forming new ones.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we're making groups and forming a different sort of global family, aren't we?
I think so. That's right.
And I think that what we're doing is we're developing an attitude where we're working. It may not seem it on the surface, but I think we're actually underneath all that is like there's a movement towards group cooperation.
That's right.
You know, whether it's community groups or on a large collective scale.
That's right. And I'm seeing it even happening on the internet around the world. People are actually connecting with like-minded souls. And I know some people don't think this is the case, but I experience, and I feel this is true, that even through the internet and social media, we can form genuine connection with people anywhere on the planet, because there's an alignment, there's a resonance. And I'm noticing that there are certain individuals on the planet that I really resonate with very strongly that I've never met. But by responding and commenting on certain posts, I can feel there's this energetic bond forming. This heart-centered connection happens.
Yeah.
Never even met the person in person, and they live on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
It's very fast, and that's very Aquarian, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. The internet is particularly, but yeah, just doing that. Yeah.
That's right. So networks, you know, new networks, and we can talk about the network of light and so on and so on and so on. There's so much going, but it's
fascinating.
Very high pressure.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that for people, because people are feeling it, and that sense of how much longer can I do this, you know, like, and it can feel for some like
endurance race, isn't it?
Yeah. And will something break here, or, you know, but I think it's that question of what needs to shift under that pressure. Something has to give at some point. Something has to give and change.
Yeah. And it will.
And it will.
Yeah, because
that can be to do with relationships, issues around health, issues around employment and work, and family dynamics. Like what will hold under this immense pressure in these fixed signs will endure, and what needs to break apart and break down under this kind of pressure.
You know, just thinking, you mentioned health. It's no surprise then that people have suffered, you know, fear, anxiety, overwhelm, all that sort of stuff. Because Aquarius governs the nervous system, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so it puts you on edge. Yeah, that's why I'm hearing people don't sleep properly, and it's interesting.
That's right. It's a nervous system and electrical circuits.
Yep.
You know, and it's very high cosmic energy that comes into our brain and nervous system and electrical circuits and chakra systems, and sometimes we can feel fried.
Yes.
Like absolutely fried. And yet at the same time, I think we're all being stretched and expanded, aren't we? And discovering that, and I can hold more, and I can hold more. But at the same time, we've got to look after our human selves, don't we? In the Taurus way. And sometimes we just stop and come to ground and go and sit in the garden and
or veg out in front of Netflix.
Veg out in front of Netflix, you know, at the end of a big day, just like, I need to find a nice movie.
Something calm.
Well, that's what I often do. You know, my days are very full and I start early, and by evening I'm done. And often I just want to just let me watch something nice and relaxing. If I can just zone out for a while, take a break.
Exactly the same. Yep.
Yeah. So we have to kind of really honor our humanness, don't we?
Yes.
Really. Wow. So yeah,
I'm exhausted already.
I know, my God, it's huge. So maybe I'll just kind of come back and just go through a few dates and so on. So look, we know that August 1st and 2nd was massive with the big triple. And by the way, and it's not just that big triple conjunction was active on those 2 days. That is actually represents a turning point and a conjunction that will then, the effects of that energy are still playing out and will continue to ripple out for a long, long time to come. Like it's like a beginning point of, okay, things are changing from here.
So when you say that, for those who are on edge, wanting to know, when is this over? When you say a long, long time, what time are we talking about?
Well,
months, years?
Well, there's a few things about that. Uranus and the North Node come together as a conjunction. I can't remember. I looked into all this when it was happening. I think it's around every 17 years or so. So these conjunctions then begin a new cycle of those 2 energies, right? So, but certainly the Uranus North Node conjunction will continue to play out through to the end of the year into early of next year. Mars moves on. And on the 20th of August, Mars will leave Taurus. That's another story, which we'll get to, because then Mars is going to be very different way. But certainly for many weeks and the next few months at least, and for the next few years as well. But I think through to the end of the year, particularly this Uranus North Node combination is still very strong and important through. Really, from now to the end of the year, a lot of things are going to shift.
Yep.
Seismically.
Yes.
And because Uranus is seismic earthquake activity, both literally and as a metaphor, our own reality and consciousness and life and circumstances. Yep. So yeah, so then on the 4th, just to sort of come back to some movements of planets, Mercury came out of Leo and moved into Virgo. And Mercury is very happy in Virgo because it's a ruler of Virgo.
Yeah.
So just for everyone, Mercury in Virgo for these 3 weeks now through to almost the end of August is a great time to get the mind focused into crossing T's and dotting I's. Take care of your administration, whether you're running a business or, even in domestically, we all have so much admin to take care of these days. But it's a great time to sort of get on top of that stuff, cleaning out the cupboards, getting rid of that stuff you've been thinking about getting rid of for months or years. It's a great time, like do the deep cleaning. If that urge has been that, this is a time to get hands-on. And I mean, I'm feeling the urge. I've had such a busy week, I haven't had a chance, but I'm feeling I want to do some deep cleaning.
Me too.
Like actual physical hands-on deep cleaning.
Yes. Yep. I know exactly.
Yeah. And so do that, because I think it'll be very fulfilling and satisfying, and that Mercury energy is there supporting that. It's also great for us informing ourselves about how we can improve our health.
Mm.
You know, information that becomes available to us. Mercury's information
Yep.
to do with health. Virgo.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think that's a really helpful thing. So the mind can get very focused in that Virgoan sense, because Virgo is an earth sign, it's quite practical.
Yeah.
What practical steps do we need to
Need
take?
to do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's right.
Interesting how when you talk about all of this, I'm already feeling it all. I've already been feeling it all, you know.
Exactly.
Mm.
That's exactly right. So if we have, amongst the busyness of whatever else is going on, if we can find the space to respond to that feeling of, I really want to get into that cupboard. Like, I'm feeling it about my pantry. I can't stand it almost another day. Like, I just got to pull everything out, you know, and
Yes.
get rid of stuff and get it organized, because
Mm.
then after we do that, things feel better energetically, feng shui, all of that. But it also makes life easier when you need to access something, like, you know exactly where it is. It's all organized.
Mm.
You know?
Mm.
And all the Virgos listening to this will go, well, yes, of course. Like,
what, you people aren't already doing this? What's wrong with you?
right. Because Virgo, like, just does not like chaos.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And finds that chaos is really stressful.
Yes. So just wants to do one thing after the other.
That's right. And have it all working in beautiful order, you know, working
Yes.
well
Yeah.
and efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm doing that with legal documents, getting things sorted, you know, and
Exactly.
yeah, and my administration, getting that sorted. Yeah.
Exactly. The paperwork, all that
Yeah.
stuff, the filing. Yeah, great opportunity if that time's available.
And if those people haven't done their taxes yet, good time to get that done.
Good time to get that done. It's so satisfying when those things are actually done.
All done.
I
Yeah.
mean, we don't like doing it, but it's
No.
so good when it's done.
Yep.
You know, it's Virgo's that list, you know, the list and
Yeah.
the satisfaction of drawing a line through that. Done,
Yes.
done.
I love that at the end
And
of
it releases something. It releases a certain amount of stress,
Mm.
actually, I think, when those things are done. So, and just one more point about that too. Virgo quite likes ritual.
Mm.
So whatever that means to whoever's listening to this, that means different things to all of us, I think. It's the rituals of life. You know, it's a good time to bring ritual of some form,
Yep.
you know, into our daily life.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like a ritual of just sitting down and having a cup of coffee with your family, your partner, whoever, and just doing
That's right.
it every day.
That's right. And being very present in that. That's
Yep.
right. That's right.
Mm.
Or for some people, it's, you know, waking up, the first person in the family waking up and having a quiet cup of coffee, watching the sunrise, or what are our rituals that we do before we go to bed, before we go to, we all have those rituals that we just do.
We do.
We
Yeah.
may not be thinking about it, but in what way can we be conscious about ritual that can be an honoring of something, you know? And then it might be more formal. Maybe for some people, it's a more formalized sense of ritual. So then on the 8th, Mars, which will be at 22 degrees of Taurus, makes an exact square to Saturn. And that Mars is a part of the full moon story, but it will be exactly square Saturn. So Mars square Saturn is quite strong, can be quite challenging, fantastic for accomplishment and achieving things, getting things done. Like, the focus can be really powerful if we can, if there's things we need to really focus on and be really productive with, that can be great to really harness that energy.
So that was on the 8th?
That's on the 8th and around those few days.
Yeah, so that isn't that the Lion's Gate time?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. The 8th of the 8th. Well, actually, that's just occurred, of course, because we're doing this just after that.
Yeah.
So that Mars square Saturn is building up, and is continuing to move on away from the conjunction with Uranus, and by the full moon it's at 25 degrees. But it won't be until Mars leaves Taurus on the 20th of August that we will feel quite a shift. Some energy of that big triple conjunction with Uranus and the North Node and Mars will begin to ease off, because Mars, which was an important part of that trigger, will have left the sign, right, on the 20th. But we'll come to that. So then we come to the full moon on the 12th, as I said before. And so it's that huge combination of Sun, Moon, Saturn, Mars, Uranus, North and South Node, all in a powerful fixed square alignment with the full moon. That is a big full moon energy. And because full moon's energy is peaking, it's going to be very strong for people. And it could be that something that's already building now is going to peak. Something could really crack open, break down, break apart, break through. And it's sometimes a situation that finally cracks open, can be very stressful when it's happening, but it creates a whole new opening to begin to move forward, because something was stuck.
So it's like good medicine.
Very good medicine. Very intense and stressful and challenging.
Yeah.
Really powerful, potent medicine.
Like some medicines, they just taste horrible going down, but they do the job.
They do the job. That's right.
Some of them do.
Some of them do. That's right. That's right. So yeah, and on that same day of the full moon on the 12th, Venus moves into Leo. She will come out of Cancer, where she's been for 3 weeks. That very nurturing, home area oriented water sign. Venus, the goddess, the brightest star in our sky, will go into Leo. That's got a lot to do with creativity, expression, enjoyment, passion. Lovely. You know, people with Venus and Leo are often very, very, very creative people. Yeah. So that's lovely. Like, I'm trying to really make sure that I get, tough with my diary and carve out a few days in a row where I can just paint. I haven't been able to much lately.
Bliss.
That's right. And that's a good time to be doing that, if we can make space for that creative energy to just do its thing. Yep. Yeah, it's big. It's big. It's big. It's all big. On the 18th, and of course, there's always lots of things happening every day. I'm just trying to sort of pull out some key things here.
It's like it's so big you can't even get your mind around it.
I know. And really, around that whole full moon, around that whole week of the full moon, it's going to be really powerful, because there's so many planets at play over that whole week. Even when the sun and the moon aren't in the exact opposition, all the other planets are moving in alignment with each other around that full moon energy. So like that whole week is so strong. It's really strong. So yeah, on the 15th, the sun makes the exact opposition to Saturn, which is part of the full moon story. Then on the 18th, Venus at 8 degrees of Leo makes a trine to Jupiter at 8 degrees of Aries. That's one of the yummy kind of transits that we like to see, because Venus and Jupiter are traditionally known as the two benefics in astrology. Whereas Mars and Saturn traditionally, going back a long, long time, were known as the malefics. So back on the 8th, when I said Mars was square Saturn, the two malefics squaring off to each other, that can sort of have that energy of like, oh God, this is so difficult. But when Jupiter and Venus, the two benefics, the planets that are said to bring benefit and ease, come together in a trine, which is an aspect of ease and harmony, in alignment in the same element of fire, that's one of those lovely transits for those few days, it's exact on the 18th, when our creative energy can feel like it's really flowing, where it can be feeling pretty good. There might be a bit of a sense of relief and release, you know, because fire signs are all about expression and vision, you know, and I think that's a really beautiful trine. That's the kind of trine where I go, I think I'm going to go and buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
You know, because Venus is a money planet. And Jupiter is one of the things it represents is good luck and good fortune.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like there's something flowing and easy and opening up here of that's abundant and joyful and heart-centered Venus. So if we can schedule in on that day or around those couple of days some activities that make us feel good, like keep it simple, you know, do what we enjoy, whether that's hanging out with friends or getting creative or whatever it is that we enjoy, that would be really wonderful. Like really make the most of that, because the weeks preceding are very potent and powerful, and I think we could do with a break.
Yeah, absolutely.
By then, you know,
So
like
that's the 18th.
that's the 18th.
Yeah,
Mark that in your calendar.
I'm going to.
And like the day before and the day after, if you can, but particularly on that date. And for some people, that may be, I'm doing nothing. I'm just going to do exactly what I feel like by myself. For others, it will be, that's the day when I want to go and hang out with my friends, or go on a date with my beloved, or whatever it is that you know will give you pleasure and just feel enjoyable. Yep. So that's, I love to be able to share good news like that.
It's nice.
Very nice.
There's not a huge amount going on reading recently.
No, my God. Yeah, so let that creative vision and imagination kind of flow and open. And it can be very inspiring, that energy.
Yeah.
Now, on the 20th, Mars goes into Gemini. And that's particularly important. I think we touched on it last time, because Mars normally spends 6 weeks in a sign.
Yep, that's right.
But he's going to spend 6 months in Gemini, because late October, he's going to turn retrograde for 10 weeks.
Oh, gosh.
Turn direct again in January, and he doesn't leave Gemini till March. So Mars, that warrior energy of high energy, action, will, stepping up, making decisions and choices. And Mars always energizes a sign when it comes into it. It's like, rum, it ramps up the energy. Gemini, that's the mental plane, mind, information, communications. Like, you think communications is flying around now, wait till he goes to Gemini. Like, it'll be super busy, super active, a lot of communication, a lot of information moving. And when in that retrograde period for those 10 weeks from the last couple of months of the year, I think it's going to be contributing. And Mars is a mutable sign, so things move and shift and change really quickly in Gemini. Sorry, Gemini is a mutable sign. They move and the mind moves, you know, the monkey mind?
Yep.
And it's a sign of duality. So, you know, we hear people in public lives say one thing one day, and a few weeks later that the message is completely the opposite. That is going to be very, very highlighted during that period.
Wow.
Yeah. So it can be a real battle over information, media.
Interesting. Well, I hope I'm going to enjoy that to some degree, because my moon's in Gemini.
Yes, it is. So people with Gemini are already wired up to really relate and respond to Gemini energy. But I think for some, it can be, we might find ourselves becoming more forthright and direct in the way we communicate. And in many cases, that can be a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's things we might have needed to say, and we'll speak a lot more about this, of course, because, you know, in the weeks and months to come. But sometimes we're holding back on certain things, that we kind of feel like, and you know, I think when this energy starts to come in, we're going to go like, we just can't hold it back, and we find ourselves suddenly speaking it without even necessarily intending to.
I'm just
But
thinking that with Sage, look out, people.
exactly. But it will shift things. It will move things quickly.
Yes, yes.
That thing gets spoken.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. So
maybe I should walk around with a disclaimer. Don't take anything I say to heart.
that's right. I can't help it. I'm a Sag
Yeah.
with a Gemini moon. That's right.
Oh gosh.
That's right. So there'll be a lot happening. Yeah. And then on the 23rd, the sun will go into Virgo. So we're moving out of that. We'll be moving out of the Leo energy, that lion energy, into Virgo, the virgin, the feminine, earth, taking care of the earth, our diet, our food, taking care of the details, the specific, cleaning, cleansing, purifying, all the symbolism around that.
Being of service.
Being of service, exactly. Our work is service. And repairing things and fixing things and clearing things out and dealing with the details and hands-on and practical. I think that's it's a kind of, after all that passionate, fiery Leo energy, you know, earth signs always follow fire signs.
Yes, yeah.
Then we sort of come back to earth and back to the practicals, after all the creative passion of the fire.
Yeah, as long as we don't get too anal and OCD about it.
Well, that's right. OCD is a very Virgo thing.
Yeah.
All these various sort of states, you know, psychological states, you can see them so clearly in the different.
Germ phobia. Got to have clean
Exactly.
hands. Oh gosh, yeah.
Exactly. And panic and deep anxiety about, you know, perfectionism.
Yeah.
Is a Virgo thing, and OCD, anxiety is a very Virgo thing, really. Worry, constant worry over every little thing.
Yeah.
On the 24th, our friend Uranus, who is very powerful in August, and actually has been very powerful all through 2022. Uranus has been very important in 2022. Turns retrograde at 18 degrees and 55 minutes. So all of August and a large part of July, Uranus is kind of holding at this 18 degrees. And we know the big triple conjunction with Uranus put at 18 degrees. And it's squaring this full moon at 19 degrees. So Uranus still at 18 degrees, you know, it just gets slower and slower and slower, and then comes to a complete standstill, you could say. And then we'll slowly begin to turn and go retrograde. And we'll still be at 18 degrees for some weeks after, before it picks up a bit of speed. And then for 5 months, we'll go back a few degrees. So August is a very strong month. So we take those kind of opportunities of like Mercury and Virgo to be conscious of stress, simple things to come to ground, and just clearing and sorting can help us to de-stress, unless we're doing it from a place of high stress.
Yeah.
And then on the 26th, Mercury leaves Virgo and goes into Libra, the sign of relationship and harmony and balance. That's at the end of the month, which then leads us into the new moon on the 27th of August, which will be at 4 degrees of Virgo. So that really brings in the Virgo cycle.
Yeah.
And completes the Leo cycle. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, I feel like taking a big breath after all of that. That's a lot. Hang in there, people, hang in there. Like, and it's like we were talking about earlier today, Cheryl, that you were talking about actually, you know, riding these waves, literally riding these huge waves of energy. And energy is coming in from the cosmos, from the sun. The sun's pouring out massive energies. Like more and more lately, like on a daily basis.
Yes.
So much energy is moving in so many ways. It is massive. Look at me, I'm holding my head. It's almost feel like my head's going to blow off.
One day my head just opened up.
That's right.
I think what I said earlier today was something like we just have to let go, even if we feel like we're bobbing on the ocean like a cork,
That's right.
just let go.
That's right.
Yeah.
And surfers and know that the more once you've learnt the basic skill, you learn to just ride the wave and let that ocean carry you and read it, and let the body intuitively know how to move on the wave. And I think that's what we're having to learn, that we can't control much of this at all.
Yeah. It's really about letting go and being opportunistic with the currents.
That's right.
The currents and ride them.
That's right.
Rather than getting sucked down or caught in the rip of them,
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So get your surfboards out, everybody.
Don't know if your flippers will help, but maybe.
Yeah, and it's like, I remember commenting in our earlier conversation about, it made me think of the dolphins, how they just joyfully and gleefully ride. I mean, they are of the sea, so they're powerful sea creatures, and their bodies powerful swimmers, of course, but they just joyfully and gleefully ride those waves. And often amongst the surfers, which is such a beautiful sight.
Yes. Yeah. Oh gosh, I just feel like wow. Yeah. My head's going, not so much my head. My being is feeling like, oh, we're getting this giant shake up.
Massive. That's right.
Like salt in the shaker.
Yeah. And on that, I just had this thought too, like, one thing I've found myself saying to people over the years, like clients in readings and classes and so on, Uranus energy is, when we're having big personal Uranus transits over the years, which we'll do at different times, it's like this need to open all the doors and windows and let all the fresh air and fresh energy blow through the house of our life and clear it all out.
Yes.
Fresh new energy, blowing out all that. I remember when I was a kid, I'd go to visit grandparents and the houses would often be closed up. And there was a kind of stale energy, and there's nothing like getting the sheets out in the sun and the fresh air and your bedding and opening windows and doors, that fresh air. That's that energy.
Yeah, it's that spring energy, isn't it?
Yes.
Which hopefully will be here soon.
Blowing out all the old energetic cobwebs. Clearing out.
But I've been doing that through winter.
Yes.
Just through 10 minutes a day, still opening up the door windows, let the fresh air in and the old air out. Yeah.
That's right. It's a great metaphor for all of this.
Yeah. Wow. I just want to take a big breath.
You have to take a big breath, have a cup of tea and go and lie down for 10 minutes.
I'm thinking like a glass of wine more.
A glass of wine might be appropriate.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much for that, Babula. That's a lot to take in. And fortunately, when this goes up on YouTube, which people will be watching now, you can go back and look at it again and again and again, take down notes, go back and watch different pieces at different times. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like it and subscribe and share it. Because I think it's really important that people understand you understand how the planetary movements relate to life on Earth,
Totally.
Yeah. That's why I like that context in the beginning of what's going on in the world, because that's something we can relate to,
That's right. And it just demonstrates to me time and time again how interconnected everything is, the planets, everything. It's all one. It's all interconnected.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So thank you, Babula. It's been a pleasure.
Cheryl.
Yep. Been a pleasure. And we will see each other again very soon.
We will.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.